Hey, warriors. Listen to the frantic, unending noise of the modern world around you. Pay very close attention to how people operate in their daily lives. Everyone is talking. Everyone is broadcasting their thoughts, exposing their fears, listing their insecurities, and offering endless justifications for their very existence. They are desperate to be heard, fundamentally believing that if they just speak a little louder, explain themselves a little more thoroughly, or argue a little more passionately, they will finally gain the respect they crave. They are completely wrong. Most people do not lose their power because someone forcefully took it from them in a grand confrontation. They lose it because they hand it over, word by freely given word, in a desperate attempt to feel validated and socially accepted. Let that sit for a second. We live in a society that associates silence with weakness, with shyness, with a lack of confidence, or with a failure to assert oneself. But true power is entirely quiet. It does not need to announce its presence. Niccolo Machiavelli understood a profound psychological reality centuries ago. He knew that the more you speak, the more common you appear, and the less in control you actually are. Power does not respond to a constant, predictable stream of words. It responds to restraint. It responds to the architecture of unpredictability. When you speak constantly, you become an open book. And an open book is easily read, easily anticipated, easily manipulated, and ultimately easily discarded. You show your opponent exactly where your emotional triggers lie. You show the room exactly how much you crave their approval. This is not about becoming cruel. This is not about becoming into a cold, heartless statue who refuses to interact with humanity. This is about behavioral calibration. It is about building emotional immunity. It is about learning to protect your psychological energy and control the tempo of every single interaction you engage in. You must shift your identity from being a reflexive reactor to being a strategic observer. Before we go any deeper into this psychological transformation, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I command my silence. Let us begin with the absolute terror of the void. Put two ordinary people in a room, and if a conversation stops for more than 3 seconds, watch exactly what happens to the human body. Panic sets in. Eyes dart around the room. Hands begin to fidget. Someone will inevitably rush to fill that silence. They will make a forced joke. They will ask a meaningless question. They will overshare personal information that they never intended to reveal. That instinct to fill the gap feels natural. It feels polite. It feels like you are simply maintaining the social flow. But strategically, it is a massive vulnerability. The need for constant psychological safety makes you entirely predictable. When you cannot tolerate tension, you signal to the other person that you are fundamentally uncomfortable in your own skin. You signal that you need the external environment to be smooth and easy in order for you to feel secure. The dark truth here is that the person who rushes to break the silence is almost always the person who holds the lowest status in that dynamic. They are serving the other person's comfort. They are doing the emotional labor to keep the room safe. Strategic individuals do the exact opposite. They utilize calculated inaction. They let the silence stretch. They allow the tension to sit heavy in the air. When a conversation pauses, they do not scramble to fix it. They hold eye contact. They breathe slowly. They simply observe. By actively doing nothing, they force the other person to reveal themselves. When you are silent, people will project their own hidden insecurities into the void. They will keep talking to fill the space, and in doing so, they will hand you incredible leverage. They will negotiate against themselves. They will reveal their true motives simply because they could not stand the quiet. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you nervously laugh or ramble just to avoid an awkward pause? Every single time you do that, you are bleeding authority. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control the void. This brings us directly into the dangerous trap of over-explaining. You have been heavily conditioned since childhood to believe that you owe everyone a thorough explanation for your existence. If you say no to a request, you immediately follow it with a long, detailed list of reasons why you cannot comply. If someone questions your decision, you instantly present a defense attorney's level of justification. You desperately want them to understand your point of view. You want them to agree with your logic. You want them to absolve you of any guilt. But this desperate desire for mutual understanding is a psychological illusion that completely drains your positioning. The psychological reality is brutal but simple. The more you explain yourself, the more you look like you are asking for permission. Justification is the native language of the subordinate. When you over-explain, you are subtly handing the judge's gavel to the other person, silently begging them to evaluate if your reasons are good enough to be accepted. You are voluntarily placing them at the top of the hierarchy. Machiavellian calibration requires you to strip away all of this weak excess. You state your position. You state your decision. And then you apply absolute silence. You say no, and you stop talking. You say you have decided to take a different direction, and you let the sentence end. The moment you stop justifying your choices, you become an immovable object in the minds of others. The other person is forced to deal with your decision as a solid, undeniable fact, rather than an opening for a negotiation. When you purposely withhold closure and refuse to elaborate, you create a psychological weight that they must carry instead of you. You force them to adapt to your reality. Ask yourself honestly, how many times today did you use 50 words when 5 would have been absolutely sufficient? How often do you dilute your boundaries with endless, unnecessary apologies? Drop this affirmation in the comments. My word is final. Let us move to the battlefield of provocation and disrespect. Life is full of people who constantly want to test your boundaries. They will drop subtle, passive-aggressive comments. They will challenge your authority in front of an audience. They will try to bait you into an emotional reaction just to see if they can pull your strings. The ordinary mind falls into this trap immediately. If someone insults them, they instantly fire back. If someone disrespects them, they raise their voice and puff out their chest. They think they are defending their honor. In reality, they are playing a rigged game designed by their opponent. The dark truth is that sudden anger and loud defensiveness are actually forms of submission. When someone provokes you and you react emotionally, you are loudly telling them that they have the power to control your internal state. You are handing them the remote control to your nervous system. You become entirely predictable, and a predictable mind is a defeated mind. A strategic player recognizes provocation not as a genuine threat, but as a golden opportunity to establish dominant positioning. When someone throws an insult or a challenging remark your way, do not argue. Do not defend yourself. Do not explain why they are wrong. Simply look at them. Apply a cold, unblinking, heavy silence. Let their disrespectful words hang in the air, echoing awkwardly in the quiet room. By refusing to engage on their level, you completely invalidate their premise. You starve them of the emotional reaction they were so desperately craving. You build absolute emotional immunity. Silence in the face of blatant disrespect is terrifying to an aggressor because it proves that their weapons have zero effect on you. It shifts the tempo entirely. They were expecting a loud fight, and instead, they hit a solid brick wall of indifference. They are left looking foolish, aggressive, and entirely out of control, while you remain perfectly centered. Ask yourself honestly, how quickly do you snap back when your fragile ego is bruised? How much vital energy do you waste fighting pointless battles that do not serve your ultimate goals? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am unbothered. This level of elite control naturally leads to the concept of conversational scarcity. In the laws of economics, anything that is highly abundant is fundamentally cheap. Anything that is rare is extremely valuable. The exact same principle applies to human attention and the words you choose to speak. People who are always talking, always commenting on every issue, always sharing their uninvited opinions, find that their words quickly become background noise. No one pays attention because the supply of their voice is infinite. But the individual who speaks rarely commands the entire room. When they finally open their mouth, the environment physically shifts. People lean in. Side conversations stop. Breaths are held. This is deliberate, engineered positioning. Machiavelli understood that to maintain power, one must maintain an aura of mystery and depth. If people know exactly what you think about every single topic, they can easily categorize you. They can put you in a neat little box and stop thinking about you. But if you guard your thoughts fiercely, if you maintain a strategic silence, you remain uncategorized. You become a complex variable they cannot calculate. This creates a natural, unspoken intimidation factor. When you listen far more than you speak, you are actively gathering high-value intelligence. You are observing the hidden hierarchy of the room. You are noting who is deeply insecure, who is desperate for validation, who is lying, and who is actually dangerous. You silently hoard data while everyone else is eagerly emptying their psychological pockets. And when you finally do speak, your words are highly targeted, surgically precise, and devastatingly effective. You do not speak merely to fill the time. You speak only to alter reality. Ask yourself honestly, Do people stop what they are doing to listen to you, or do they talk over you because they are so accustomed to the cheapness of your voice? Drop this affirmation in the comments. My words have weight. Now consider exactly how this operates when dealing with the human obsession for closure. The ordinary mind is deeply uncomfortable with unfinished business. People need every conversation wrapped up neatly. They need every disagreement resolved before they go to sleep. They need every question answered fully. That instinct feels responsible, but it creates a massive vulnerability. The desire for immediate closure exposes emotional dependence. When you rush to clarify everything, you signal that you require emotional resolution to function properly. When you chase finality, you surrender your leverage. Strategic individuals deeply understand the dark power of leaving space. When you do not immediately tie up every loose end, you create intense psychological gravity. The other person continues thinking about the interaction long after it ends. They replay your words in their head. They analyze your tone. They question what you really meant. They speculate endlessly. That intense mental engagement drastically increases your weight in their mind. When everything is explained, processed, and neutralized instantly, the moment evaporates. There is nothing left to consider. But uncertainty creates presence. This is not about being randomly deceptive. It means resisting the urge to overcomplete a situation. It means understanding that withholding a response can be infinitely more influential than excessive clarity. When you leave certain things unsaid, you elevate your positioning. It communicates internal security. It shows that you do not depend on external agreement to feel settled. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you send a follow-up message just to ensure your point landed correctly? How often do you feel physically uneasy when a conversation ends without total alignment? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace the mystery. Finally, you must deeply understand that silence is the ultimate unapologetic filter for the people you allow into your life. When you stop initiating every single conversation, when you stop constantly reaching out to check on people, when you stop performing like an entertainer just to keep people interested, you will see exactly where you stand in the social matrix. The people who only kept you around because you were highly convenient, or because you eagerly boosted their fragile ego, will quickly drift away. Let them go. Your strategic silence acts as a natural, impenetrable defense mechanism against emotional vampires, narcissists, and manipulators. Manipulators heavily rely on your constant stream of communication to gather ammunition against you. They desperately need you to react so they can twist your words and play the victim. When you abruptly cut off the supply of words, their toxic tactics completely fail. They starve in your silence. You force people to meet you entirely on your terms. You establish a strict behavioral standard where your presence and your attention must be consistently earned, not blindly expected. The transition from being loudly, cheaply available to quietly, strictly selective will change the fabric of your entire reality. People will begin to treat you with a new profound, unspoken respect. They will measure their words very carefully before bringing them into your space. They will realize that you are not a dumping ground for their chaotic anxieties. You are a vault. You are a fortress. This is the absolute essence of Machiavellian positioning. You are not aggressively attacking anyone. You are simply, coldly removing their unauthorized access to your mind. Ask yourself honestly, are you mentally and physically exhausted from carrying the conversational and emotional weight of every single relationship you have? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I restrict my access. You have just been handed the exact blueprint for quiet, absolute dominance. You now deeply understand the mechanics of the void, the critical danger of over-explaining, the strategic weaponization of tension, and the raw, undeniable power of scarcity. But knowing this information intellectually is absolutely useless to you if you do not apply it behaviorally. And here is the harsh, unforgiving reality. Most of you watching this right now will not apply it. You will feel a temporary surge of motivation running through your veins today. You will nod your head in agreement. But tomorrow, when your boss unfairly challenges you, or your partner emotionally provokes you, or a heavy, awkward silence falls over a crowded room, your fragile discipline will completely collapse. You will panic. You will revert instantly to your old, weak, comfortable patterns. You will start talking. You will start explaining. You will hand your leverage right back to the people who do not deserve an ounce of it. Do not be like the masses. Do not be a predictable slave to your own nervous system. True mental transformation requires ruthless, unrelenting discipline. It requires you to consciously, painfully override your natural impulses every single day until silence becomes your default weapon. If this video shifted something fundamental inside your mind, if it woke you up to the massive amounts of power you have been carelessly giving away, hit the like button. Subscribe to the Human Code right now if you are serious about mastering human behavior. Share this with someone who is still trapped and bleeding out in the noise. Remember this: stop acting nice to survive. Start playing smart to lead.